From Daily Mail, Trump's border czar gives wild answer on if ICE will round up leftist groups aiding illegal immigrants. Before I read his quote, I just want to say, we asked this question as many Democrats had been instructing illegal aliens on how to avoid law enforcement. And the question, so there is a law in the books, I believe it is U.S. Code, Title 8 U.S. Code 1324, Section 4A, which says that inducement of an individual who is here illegally, knowingly or otherwise, that, with reckless disregard for whether or not they're committing a crime, if you induce them to stay here, that would be a crime. Now, in the debate and sort of the argument, it was, yeah, but if you're informing someone of their legal rights, you're not really committing a crime. The issue is, of course, when we see Ilhan Omar and these other Democratic reps, we know their intention. So I put it like this. We've all been to those parties, those keggers when we were young, where they're selling cups. They're like, I got a red cup for $5. I'm not selling beer. I'm selling cups. Good luck. You're going to go to court and they're going to be like, we knew exactly what you were doing. You were selling beer to minors. You were selling cups.
I do think because it's a congressperson that's actually making these statements and informing these people, that would imply to people, obviously not directly tell them, but imply to people, look, this is an authority telling me that it's okay for me to do these things, for me to come. This is someone in a position of authority saying it's okay for me. I can get around the law if I do these things. So I think that if it's just someone, just a Joe on the street saying this is what you can do, it might be one thing. But I do think that people in positions of authority should be held to a higher standard, because that position as a congressperson comes with the implied knowledge that you would think that the government has.
And the main point I'm making is, we know the intention of these members of Congress when they're doing this.
Yes.
They're not
100%.
They're not just telling your run-of-the-mill American citizen how to make sure their rights are being protected. Certainly, if you're an American and you get stopped by law enforcement, depending on the state you're in, it's always different, but you typically don't have a requirement to give your information to cops or show them your ID unless they suspect you've committed a crime and are detaining you for such a thing. Usually, you're just free to go. You say, am I being detained? If they say no, you say thank you and have a nice day. Appreciate it. That I understand. But here's what we're seeing is activist groups, even I think AOC did this, they're putting out information specifically intended for illegal immigrants to skirt the law. Here's the story. They go to mention, since Trump took office, hordes of protesters have descended on L.A. and other major cities, waving Mexican flags and those of other Central and South American countries to decry the president's illegal immigration crackdown. These protests have involved protesters blocking freeways, though many demonstrations have been peaceful. Quote, "Sir, is there any plan to go after these leftist groups and these protests across the nation where those likely illegal aliens are flying foreign flags to be rounded up?" A journalist for the Gateway Pundit asked Homan. The border czar had seemingly answered his share of questions, began walking away from the scrum, but the question piqued his interest. I do want to point out they chose the wrong peaked. You guys need a copy editor. Get it the source. They wrote P-E-A-K. Homan stopped in his tracks and flashed a brief smile before delivering a verdict. Watch and see what happens, he shot back. Followed by, we're working on that right now, Homan added before striding away. Some of the groups seen protesting include Centro CSO, an undocumented immigrant advocacy organization, and the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. During the questioning, the border czar also shared that he is deeply unsatisfied with the rate at which immigration and customs enforcement agents are able to arrest illegal immigrants residing in the USA. When posed the question of whether Trump is happy with the pace of ICE enforcement, Homan shot back, I'm not. If you look at the arrests in the interior enforcement, it's about 3 times higher than it was a year ago today. 3 times higher is good, but I'm not satisfied. There's more criminal aliens that need to be arrested. Hundreds of thousands sanctuary cities are putting up roadblocks. We got leaks. The border czar continued. The question is, what are they going to do about these sanctuary states, these sanctuary cities, where you have a government official outright saying we will aid and abet illegal immigration in violation of federal law?
Well, a couple of things strike me, Tim. First of all, I don't understand why these immigration groups are flying foreign flags. I mean, I'm an immigrant to America, proud American, was naturalized in 2015, came here 20 years ago. I mean, if I were advising these folks on public relations, you fly American flags. I mean, that's number one. Number two is, if you're inducing somebody to commit a crime, if I'm inducing someone to commit a robbery or armed assault or murder, I am as complicit in that crime as the perpetrator. So it is remarkable to me. Members of Congress are actually encouraging this. And don't get me started on Ilhan Omar, please. We could have a whole hour on her.
Oh man, I heard the FBI is investigating her over. This is recent, over her marrying her brother, because some people claim there was DNA evidence. Let's not get into that. Let's not get. But maybe we can later. But yeah, there's a lot of questions here, and when we brought this up last week about whether or not it's illegal to provide this information, I'm curious if you are not a lawyer, you have no legal authority to be giving legal advice to anybody. Not that no one's allowed to do it. I'm just saying, like, lawyers have there's I can't think of the word.
Well, I mean, you have an obligation as an attorney to provide
Privilege. Right. That's what I was thinking of.
Right, and you have right to counsel here. That's fine.
But let's say
you're right as a lawyer.
Let's say you're a regular person on the street, and you see a guy about to rob a bank, and you walk up to him and say, "All right, here's what happens. After you go and do this, the cops are going to come from these places. Do not speak to them, and here's how you can avoid detection after you've committed that crime." Wouldn't that be plotting with them to commit the crime? Like, wouldn't you get in trouble for that?
Accessory.
100%. Accessory.
Right, you're basically saying, here's how you can get away with it and avoid detection after you've broken the law.
Right. I mean, that's conspiracy to commit a crime.
Yeah.
You're actively engaged in the plotting of a crime, and you would be complicit. You would be indicted.
So the challenge here is illegal immigrants in this country have broken the law already, and it's one thing to provide blanket legal advice, constitutional advice, all those things as an American citizen, saying to all of my American friends out there, and I'll say this legitimately: don't talk to cops. That's the rule. Everybody knows. You don't talk to cops. You get a lawyer. Don't be stupid.
Yep.
And it is kind of rough because it's like you can literally never no, like there's some circumstances obviously where you talk to cops, like if you call them. But the point is, when there's a crime being investigated, you don't know if you're the suspect. You just I'm sorry. I mean, this is the way it works. But there's something different here in that we have the intent. We know for a fact, and no reason, if you go up to a random person on the street and say, "Hey, AOC just provided this information on how to avoid ICE," was that intended to help illegal immigrants avoid deportation? They'd say, "Yeah, of course." Oh, okay. Well, that's inducement. That's illegal. The question is Trump going to have the gall to actually go after Democrat politicians who have long broken the law and skirted our federal codified law to induce illegal immigration? Because let's be real, as Phil was pointing out, these people from a position of authority saying this, what did we see? We saw people come to the border wearing shirts saying, "Please, Biden, let us in."
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden said that from in one of the debates. He said, "Surge the border," and the result was 15, 20 million illegals came in the 4 years, something along those lines. I mean, it was record breaking and an astronomical number. And so, if someone in a position of authority, if someone in Congress, an elected official, if they're making these kind of statements, there has to be a higher standard that they're held to because of the implication that they're telling people the legal right thing to do. I understand that, everyone is free to, whether they be in Congress or a regular citizen, you're free to say whatever you want to say. But there are certain responsibilities that come with your position in Congress. And I think that kind of interaction with people that are illegals, saying, look, these are the things you do to avoid detection, and these are the rights that you have, so that way you can avoid having to, interact with police or whatever. I do think that does at least approach a crime, and it should be something that Congress, and I know I'm going to sound like a fossil for even saying this, but maybe Congress people need to be censured for it. We haven't censured anyone, I know, in ages and ages. Most people don't even know what a censure is, right? But there should be some repercussions because they've enabled people to come to the U.S. illegally and they're helping them stay.
For those who don't know, just real quick, if you don't know what inducement means, it's an inducement of federal orders can be illegal if it involves improper financial arrangements, which is if you get away from ICE and you keep collecting money from the state, the government, that might be that, or actions that violate federal laws, which is them telling them, the illegals, to get away from ICE. That's if there's someone's in jail and they are to be stayed there, and the police let them go, and the Congress people tell them that they should go and hide somewhere, that's definitely violating federal laws.
It's basically encouraging them. I believe it says encouraging and inducing. So encouragement would be, we know what that means. It's literal. It's like saying to someone like, hey, come here, do this thing, and you'll be safe. You can do it this way. Inducement would be providing some kind of incentive. Say, if you do this, we'll do X. So this is encouragement potential under the inducement statute. But I think the issue is for these Democrats, they have for a long time operated with impunity as it pertains to the law. Like sanctuary states and sanctuary cities is one thing where they say, we're not going to participate in law enforcement nor communicate with them. And it's like, okay, well, I feel like they're violating the spirit of the Union of States by basically saying, we're going to break the law, which negatively impacts all of you, disproportionately gives us power in Congress and the presidential elections, whatever. But now when they're at the federal level actively helping illegal immigration, advocating for it outright, now we're at a point where we have to ask ourselves a question. Can we as a nation, can we stop that? It's illegal. It violates the spirit of the union. Let me explain it. California offers free health care. They call it Medi-Cal. Free health care to illegal immigrants, not to American citizens. That's inducement. That is inducement. You come here, we'll give you free health care is inducement. The state is doing that. When those people come, they then say, we will not deport you, nor will we assist federal law enforcement. Then the census happens. They get extra congressional seats, extra votes at the Electoral College, and we all have to abide by them breaking the rules and violating the Constitution and committing federal crimes. How do you stop that? I mean, unfortunately, it seems like there's one strong way, and it's going to be DOJ accountability. Perhaps Trump can cut off all funding. The federal government will no longer provide a single penny to any state that is not enforcing the law.
Look, I grew up in a country, Canada, where, I mean, the political game in Canada was that the Liberal Party for decades would let in as many immigrants as possible, now legal immigrants, and basically the quid pro quo was, we're letting you in, you're going to vote for us. And that's why Pierre Trudeau stayed in power for 2 decades, right? Democratic politicians in America understand that game. I mean, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and the Democratic Party understand that the more illegal immigrants they bring in, the more pathways to citizenship they provide, the more votes they get, and that secures them a Democratic majority. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump is president of the United States, and Republicans control the House and Senate, because it is in effect today an 80-20 issue. The 80% of Americans want to control their borders. They don't want illegal immigrants. By the way, they want legal immigrants.
Yeah.
They were a country of, I mean, a number of us, who came from different countries. We understand the power and the strength, and in some cases, the beauty of legal immigration. And what we don't want to do is have our borders violated, illegals come in, and one political party in America basically piggyback on illegal immigration in order to ride to a permanent political majority. And that's the Democratic game. I mean, let's face it. At the end of the day, that's behind everything.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.